Good morning. I can see both of you on the screen. How are you
Hello.
doing?
Good
Hi, good
afternoon.
morning.
Actually, where I am,
Afternoon.
it's afternoon. So
See,
hello, everyone.
we're in a darkened kind of space, so it still feels like a morning, but yes, correct, afternoon. Um, um, Happy to see you, to continue the conversation. And let us start with pretty much explaining the title of the presentation. What, in fact, you have in mind when you think or say DNI projects that foster diversity in STEM. Magda, would you like to tackle this question?
Sure. Hello, everyone. Of course, I can do that. So it may sound a little bit enigmatic, but what it essentially is, it's really about promoting diversity and inclusion in the disciplines which have been stereotypically dominated and associated with the male characteristics. So, as a tech company, we understand how crucial diversity is in fostering innovation and creativity. And like we say at Cisco, building a better future for all. So I believe we're all responsible for ensuring equitable opportunities for everyone. You ask me why fostering diversity in STEM is so important. So, just name a couple of pragmatic examples why. It really helps and allows to expand the talent pool, very pragmatic one. So, what happens if you actually discount 50% of the population? The effect may be dire, right? Then having diverse views improves the decision making, then helps the company building competitive advantage, and it's very beneficial for the organization. Not to mention really about being an inspiration for the new generation and actually creating and building the new role models. So all probably sounds kind of obvious for all of you, and we seem to all know it in the corporate world and take it for granted. So it was really eye-opening when we heard from one of the female high school students who visited our office last year during one of the events that we organized. And she told us her story. Turns out that girls in the technical high schools continue facing the challenges related to the gender stereotypes, believe it or not. They encounter those biases about their abilities to in certain technical subjects, and only few out of the very few that are in those technical sky schools decide and choose to continue their education in STEM fields. So this is incredible. So I believe this confrontation of our corporate world and reality with outside reality really reassured us this is really the mission that we want to continue and move on. So to close out, I just say that we actually have a power ourselves, and other colleagues presenting today have a power to inspire and really be the change agents or the change makers in this area.
And I'm super happy to give a space to Maria Jose now. We're talking a lot about authenticity and bringing real people and the real stories. And there you go, Maria. I know this success story is also your personal story and your journey to get to the technology and this engineering world at some point. Can you tell us some more on about it? How did you enter this world?
Sure. So for me, that started at a very early age. I was just 4 years old when I had this first interaction with a computer. We were visiting family, and my uncle had a computer. And I loved it so much that since then, every Christmas, I was asking for a computer. But they were expensive. I was too little. I was consistent. I kept on asking. And finally, when I was 11 years old, that's when I got the first PC. As a teenager, I also discovered there was something called computer science. I could study at the university. So for me, that was clear. That's what I wanted to do. However, there were other friends and colleagues at the same age. They were not sure what they wanted to do. And that reflected as well while I was studying at the university. Sometimes I was the only girl in the classroom. Sometimes we were two or three only. This is why it's so important that we bring this awareness to the younger generations. And it's not just about going to the school, giving the speech. That's not going to make the trick. It's about giving these hands on opportunities for them to discover technology and to see how fun technology can be.
Thank you. You made me inspired to ask for a new computer for Christmas.
Go for it.
By the way, today is a Santa Claus day, and we haven't mentioned that, Łukasz, yet. How
Well, we
could
should have lots of some gifts for each other, I suppose.
We
We'll think about it
we
later.
will come back to that. Thank you, Maria. Magda, coming back to you and taking back the organizational perspective, can you take us through some specific initiatives that you've taken at Cisco that helped you to attract more diverse talent pool? Maria obviously is a super authentic example, but what happened at the micro scale?
Right. So, we have probably realized by now that, addressing stereotypes, biases may be a daunting undertaking. So it really requires a multifaceted approach, including collaboration with educational institutions, with parents, with employees, to try to influence and drive the actual cultural change inside and outside of the organization. So, first steps that we have taken was really creation of the inclusive community, employee resource groups within Cisco called Women in Science and Engineering. And this is a community of the passionate individuals who really see the future in that change and want to drive that change, want to be the change agents, and are passionate really about it. And so the community built the whole program of recurring events, internal and external, offered to the community and our employees that really supposed to address some of those challenges and step by step drive the change. You ask for the specific example. So some of you might have, if you monitor social media, you might have come across announcements, communication about Girls in ICT, Cisco Tech Festival, Future STEM Heroes. This is just a few flagship events that we have been running for 2 years now at the very organized and structured scale. It's not only our Poland location. We actually coordinate those activities across different sites in EMEA region as well as globally. A good example, the most recent one would be the early mentioned Future STEM Heroes, where we've invited 150 children to our office in Krakow and actually allowed them to put hands-on experience, try and see themselves what technology can do, how they can play with it, how they can use it, how they can get inspired with it. And it's not that complex and daunting as it may seem. So, this brings, I would say, effect, not only makes an impression on the children, but also they share their experience with the parents. So this is really step-by-step creating that awareness and impact. Another example addressing a different age groups is WISE Mentoring pilot project that we're piloting right now, really targeted at female students at their final year of higher education. And it's primarily about mentoring and helping to, build and define their career path and really show them the perspective and their future in the technology field, so that they actually are not moving out of the technology and are not really discounting this as their future opportunity. So happening outside, this is one thing, but it's important to be consistent and have the series of programs run internally, because once we have that talent in the organization, we really need to make sure that we also focus on our employees. So we run a couple of programs, internal development program for engineers who are aspiring to represent Cisco during global and regional industry events. It's a big thing, really, and it can be, I would say, overwhelming if you're not ready for it. So we have a group of individuals, actually Maria is one of the project leaders, who are spending time, dedicating time to train and prepare our employee community to be able and ready to represent the company during those huge industry events. So that would be a great example. Yeah. I will just finish off saying that, also the processes matter. So it's actually having the consistency in the training awareness as well as hiring process by paying attention to the inclusive language in the job description. And last but not least, by making sure that during the interview itself, we do have a diverse representation in the interview panel, because that oftentimes becomes a critical factor for our candidate to decide whether they do take a role or not.
Absolutely. Thank you, Magda. You mentioned so many interesting things. You mentioned about the power of community, power of collaboration, educational pieces, actions that you have taken. They all leave some space for challenges and risks that I'm sure you're experiencing today. But let's finish on a positive note and on a practical note, and let's come back to you, Maria, and let us ask you about some crucial, critical piece of advice that you, from your experience, that you can share with the audience. So if other organizations wish to attract diverse talent pool, what are the key strategies, key recommendations that you can share?
Yeah, so the advice will be to make sure that there is a portfolio of initiatives and programs that are helping through the whole life cycle. As Magdalena mentioned, it's so important to bring this awareness to the new generations with the hands-on activities, but also the language that is being used on the job offerings, that it's meaningful to attract this diverse talent. And the interview panels, that's another key factor. I remember on my assessment day at Cisco when I was the candidate and I was going through those interviews, it was a full day of interviews and I had interactions with different engineers. I remember this engineer in one of the technical interviews. She was very kind, very knowledgeable. So that's inspiring. And at the end of those interviews, I felt like this is the right place for me. I want to be here. This is the feeling we should be aiming to achieve with the candidates that are going through the interview process. And then having as well the programs and initiatives within the individuals in the company to help them continue growing in their career and to feel that they belong with these inclusive communities, as Magdalena was sharing some examples with Cisco Life Academy and Women in Science and Engineering.
Thank you.
That's all the angles, basically.
Thank you. And this piece of awareness that you brought up at the beginning of the conversation also was a good recommendation. Let us tell you, there's a huge interest from our audience. If you're planning to stay with us, we would, I think, encourage you to tackle these questions. There's an interest around the adaptation and staying relevant in what you're doing, considering the dynamic environment. There's a question on, I think, education as a process. And
feel free to enter the platform properly,
yes,
engage with our audience by addressing questions. We are kindly invited to do that.
So maybe as a good piece of recommendation, if we can ask you to just stay for a bit online and help the audience with some questions that we're seeing on chat, that would be fantastic. And I'm happy it's bringing attention. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having us.
Good luck with your initiatives and talk to you soon.
And we're back with the audience in a moment.